Okay, so let's talk about ESG investing. It's everywhere, right? Companies are pouring billions into proving they're good for the planet, good for society, and that they're run well. But you have to wonder, does a high score in corporate goodness actually help their reputation where it counts most these days, on social media? The answer, as you'll see, is not what you think.
First, let's just get a sense of the scale here. We're talking about $17 trillion. That's how much investors had put into assets using sustainable criteria just a few years ago. So yeah, this isn't some tiny little niche trend anymore. This is a massive force shaping the entire market.
And the logic behind it seems like total common sense, right? It's this simple, kind of beautiful idea. If a company is a good corporate citizen, if they take care of the environment and their people, it should naturally lead to a better reputation and ultimately better business. And this is the multi-trillion-dollar question. Does that warm, fuzzy feeling actually survive in the cold, hard world of online investing? We're talking about the digital trenches, platforms like Seeking Alpha or stock-focused subreddits, where millions of regular people are shaping how the market thinks every single day.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to break down a really fascinating study that dug right into this question. But first, let's do a super quick refresher to make sure we're all on the same page about what ESG actually is.
So ESG is just a framework. It scores companies on three main things. E is for environmental. Pretty straightforward. Their carbon footprint, are they polluting, that kind of stuff. S is for social. How do they treat people? We're talking diversity, human rights, community stuff. And G is for governance. This is the how the business is run part. Is the board transparent? Are they playing by the rules?
Okay, and here's where it gets really, really interesting. The researchers behind this study did something super smart. They realized that online reputation isn't just one thing. It's two totally different things. It's the difference between people just talking about you and people talking nicely about you.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial. So they measured social media attention, which is just the noise, right? The sheer volume of articles and posts about a company. But then they also measured social media sentiment. That's the feeling behind the noise. Is it a round of applause or is it angry shouting? Because getting attention is one thing, but getting praise is something else entirely.
All right, so the stage is set. This is where that whole doing good is good for business idea really gets put to the test. The researchers took a look at S&P 500 companies, their ESG scores, and all the articles written about them on a huge investment site. And the answer they found was not what you'd expect at all.
So, back to the main event. After all that work, does a company with a fantastic ESG score actually get a real boost online? What do you think? Let's see what the data has to say.
And here it is, the big reveal. Does a good ESG score get you more attention? A big, fat yes. People absolutely talk more about companies with high ESG scores. But does it get you more positive buzz? A better sentiment? The answer, incredibly, is no. A flat no. There's just no connection there. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. All that effort to get a good ESG score makes people talk about you for sure. But it does absolutely nothing to make them say nice things about your stock. It gets you eyeballs, but it doesn't win you hearts and minds. So the obvious question is, why? Well, to figure out this puzzle, we have to pop the hood on that ESG score. Because it turns out that online investors do not treat the E, the S, and the G the same way at all. And that is where the real story is hiding.
Okay, check this out. It's fascinating. The E for environment and the S for social, yeah, those are what gets you the attention. People talk about that stuff. But G for governance? Apparently not so much. Doesn't really move the needle. But now look at the sentiment side. This is the wild part. The S and G scores, no impact. And the E score, the environmental stuff, a high score was actually linked to more negative online chatter. You heard me right. Being greener hurt the buzz.
So what in the world is going on? Why would being good for the planet be bad for your online buzz? Well, the study found a pretty clear reason. A lot of these online investors are looking at the bottom line. And when they see a company spending a ton of money on green projects, they don't see a company saving the world. They see it as a financial cost, a burden that could hurt short-term profits.
So let's just put a fine point on this. ESG is not one big happy family. The social and governance parts, they don't seem to help your positive buzz. But the environmental part, the one that often gets the most press, can actually backfire and hurt your online reputation with some of these investors. Now, this is way more than just an interesting academic finding. This has huge, real-world implications for how companies are run, how we all invest, and even how markets are regulated.
So, what's the bottom line here? Well, if you're a manager, the lesson is that your green and social initiatives will get you noticed, but you can't assume that'll automatically win people over in finance forums. For investors, this is a real wake-up call, isn't it? It suggests the online chatter might be focused on short-term costs instead of long-term value. And finally, for regulators, this signals a huge gap in understanding. More education is probably needed to help everyone see why this stuff is so important for a healthy economy in the long run.
And that kind of leaves us with a final, really big thought. In a world where online chatter has so much power to shape reality, what does it mean if that chatter rewards companies for just getting attention, but not for having a genuinely positive impact? It really forces us to ask what we're actually valuing when we invest, and whether the conversation online is helping or maybe even hurting the whole goal of building a better, more sustainable future.